Hey guys, one of the strategies we're going to use when we're comparing fractions is to actually compare the fraction itself to a benchmark fraction, and half is a nice, easy one to do. So I've just created cups here. Use my pointer. This one says less than a half, half, more than a half. So I'm going to take a fraction from the fraction cards and I'm going to evaluate it to see whether it's a fraction that's representing half, less than half, more than half. What is it representing? So in order to do that, I think, well, the denominator is 10. If 10 parts make the whole, how many parts would be half of the amount? And I know it's 5/10 would be half. So clearly this one is less than half. How about this fraction? 6/12. Well, I know that 12 parts in the whole thing. 6 is actually exactly half. If I have 6 of the 12 parts, I have half of whatever that whole is that it's representing. How about 4/10? Denominator tells me that there's 10 parts in the whole. 5/10 would be half. So this is clearly less than half. And then you'll just continue going on like this to get in the habit of comparing to a benchmark. 3/4. Well, I know that 2/4 would be half. So this is clearly larger than half. And the number 2/5. Now, sometimes kids have a little bit of a harder time when we're talking about a fractional amount that has an odd number as a denominator. It's not so easy to think about what half of it is, but these are just real numbers, guys. If you have 5 or if you have fifths and you divided it into 2, right? How many would you have? If you divided this amount right down the middle, you'd have 2.5 on this side and 2.5 on this side. So actually a half of a fifth, if you have fifths, half will be represented by 2.5 fifths. And you don't see that very often, but it's a real amount, 2.5 fifths. We just don't see it maybe all the time. But so when you have an odd number on the bottom or the denominator, use your common sense and even maybe a model to figure out. So let's go back to this fraction. 2/5. Well, it would take 2.5 fifths to have half of the amount of parts. So this is going to be less than half. This is going to end up being a great skill to use when you're comparing fractions that have different numerators and different denominators from one another, and you need another strategy. So practice it with your game.